DMX I don't know why. What? No. I'm sorry if that was loud. All right, so goodness, how's everybody doing tonight? Goodness, hope everybody's having a good weekend and everything's going well for you. Just to keep it simple, to keep things really short. Basically, I'm gonna have a couple of clips here, and then I'm gonna have story time. But yeah, I story time is a little serious, more than just my nephew needs to hear this. I mean, this is a lesson that all men need to hear. This is a lesson young and old need to hear. You need to understand what it is that really happens to be waiting for you out here in the world. What it is that can happen. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into it. All right. So in order to, I guess, keep things simple, if you guys happen to follow me on IG, you would have seen this. Came from. Goodness, a lot of us happen to have been, born more well than within time to understand what Jerry Springer is, and especially what Maury happens to be, and even more importantly, what Steve Wilkos happens to be. And what it is basically I'm referencing in that video is that we as men, when it is that we happen to grow up and we see our moms, we love our mothers and we love our sisters, we love the women around us, and we are brought up to believe that being a gentleman, to be a man, means to just blind and aimlessly take care of all the women around you, no matter what the situation may happen to be, no matter how much it is that they use you and abuse you and so on and so forth. Um, what it is that Jerry Springer, Maury Povich, and Steve Wilkos has shown us as men is how truly vindictive and evil that some of you can be, and truly just reckless, not only with our time, but with your time, and most importantly, your children's time. But I happen to have another compilation here to go ahead and illustrate what it is that I was referring to, and I'm going to play it. Yeah, here goes.
3-year-old LaQuavion, Ben, you are not. In the case of 3-month-old Lanaya, Linnell, you are not.
I got a whole bunch of
Saya,
these, y'all. I could do this
Michael,
all day.
You are not. When it comes to 21-year-old Montre, Tracy, you are not the father. When it comes to 18-year-old Nick Tracy, you are not the father.
And basically, I want to preface this with the last two that you just happen to have saw. If you happen to have noticed, that was an older man who was testing two grown boys, two grown men, whether it is that they may happen to have or have not been his children. And so, which means that this woman who told him he was the father had been lying to him for years before it is that he actually happened to have found out the truth as to what it was that was happening. And ladies, when it is that you do this kind of stuff to us, it's heartbreaking. It's life ending. It's, what did I just use and waste my entire life for? What have you done this to me for? It's the most amount of deceit that you could possibly show in person.
To Kobe, Wawa, you are not.
You guys always run off the stage.
When it comes to 3-month-old Rosalind, Justin, you are not. Comes to 8-month-old Braylon, Cody, you are not.
So, putting all these forth and everything it is that you happen to have seen, you could understand as to how, even from a minor standpoint, as to how men can start to question the validity of the certain things that women would say, especially in desperation in times to try to keep the man around if he happens to be providing or doing a good job, and she has been deceitful behind his back without his knowledge, without his want or consent, and basically force this man to raise somebody else's child. It's absolutely detrimental to us, and there's no further. I mean, there's no real worse thing that I could do, or that could be done to a man. Excuse me, not that I could do. No worse thing that could be done to a man, other than probably something that it is that I'm going to depict and explain right now. So a couple years away, back, I had a friend that I used to hang out with quite frequently before it is that, he just seemed to have, fallen off. And unfortunately, he just never seemed to have gotten his situation together. I hope he does, and I hope everything happens to turn out for him, but I haven't heard from him in quite some time. To keep things mildly, we were hanging out, and we used to hang out every day. You know, I used to play a lot of video games. I was fat. I was overweight before I started going to the gym. I still play a little bit now to unwind when it is that I happen to have a little bit of time and I could think of something quick to do or whatnot. But, you know, and I genuinely really don't have anything else that I could be doing to be productive. But this individual would come over a lot, and we would hang out daily. You know, it was just something to do, you know, just hanging out and kicking it with the boys. You know, playing video games, playing fighting games. I mean, it was just, it was whatever. You know, we were drinking, just, it was a whole bunch of just unhealthy adult life living, to keep things mildly. And I mean, and I can very much so admit that and be honest and say that that was what it was that I was doing. Now, understand, we hung out probably solid for like a year straight. It even happened to like when it is that I decided to get my life in order and start going to the gym, I influenced him to get up off of his ass and to go to the gym as well. Now he was thin. He was what I would refer to as skinny fat. You know, he was thin, but he didn't happen to have a whole lot of muscle tone on him because his eating was, you know, it was poor. You know, as a lot of you youngsters happen to do, it's a lot of energy drinks and garbage food. I don't know how it is a lot of you do it and even manage to sustain yourselves and live throughout the day. Anyway, to move on. All of a sudden, I didn't hear from him for a week. Nothing. I thought the worst. Oh my goodness, you know, my friend, you know what I mean? And I was with my girl at the time. You know, I've been with her all throughout this time or whatnot. I was with her before him, after him, so on. So I mean, you know, so I was talking with her about it. You know, what do you think happened? What do you think happened? You know, is everything okay? Is it good? Is it good? Is it good? Um, to put things in perspective, so what it is that had happened was, goodness, he was seeing a girl. He had been seeing a girl for a couple of months. A new woman. You know, she was a single mom. Um, and from what it is that he tells me, and he was a bit of a goodness, he wasn't a male prostitute, but he was a very promiscuous individual. Let's say, you know, women happen to have found him attractive. He was that kind of guy. I guess he happened to have had that swagger. It is what it is. But he wound up having relations with the woman that he was with, and then apparently like there was some commotion with a girlfriend that evening, and she had basically influenced her girlfriend to sleep with him as well, which is honestly that's really weird. That's some, you know, sharing anyway. Like, I'm not about that life. uh what it is that he caught an STD, to keep things really mildly. And when it is that he found, when it is that he told me what it was, and this is one that he cannot get rid of. It will be with him for the rest of his life. He'll never be able to fix it. He'll never be able to change it. And it's unfortunate. You know, he used to come over to my house and talk about deleting her and her kid. You know, unalive. You know, and I had to talk him down from this. It was absolutely, it was heartbreaking for me to hear him have to go through this and to basically I mean, he was destroyed. You know, his whole, basically what it is that he really had prided himself in being as a pookie, being able to get into girls' panties and so on, had been destroyed. It was wrecked. You know, there was nothing he was going to be able to do in order to get that back. It was gone. But and you know, that's where it is that we happen to have deferred. You know, he happened to have changed his mind, I guess, you know, somewhere mentally on that, you know, feeling like he was burned by a woman and just felt like he needed to be able to go out and do his thing. I don't know if he was being honest with these women or whatnot, but I happened to have split off contact with him shortly afterward. I just didn't feel like he was conducting himself in the most appropriate of fashions. But come to find out, the next individual that this woman happened to have messed with, and I mean, and this is the most typical, or not the most typical. This is the most scariest thing about it, fellas. He tells me when it is that he happens to go and explain to this woman that he got checked and you know, something has happened and so on. She already had medicine and she gave him a pill. Um, and I kid you not, this woman gaslit him for the next week and tried to make him think that he gave it to her. I mean, and he was a male 304. I mean, absolutely. And this is why it is that I don't happen to promote it. I don't approve of it, and I don't happen to think it happens to be okay. But he did that, and sure enough, she managed to Emperor Palpatine him in such a fashion to where uh, he actually started to believe it. And when it is that he came over to my house, the particular STD that it was, I explained to him that in no way would she be able to have it identified and then have medication for it in less than a week. It honestly, it was kind of, no, it was sus. And explaining this to him, he went back and basically presented her with this information. I don't know whether he wasn't paying attention in school or what, but I mean, you know, unfortunately, what it is that happened to me throughout my childhood, and eventually, I mean, I'll get onto this, you know, throughout the channel, but I happen to I can retain a lot very well. I have a memory of an elephant when it comes to most things. Great with faces, not really great with names. But anyway, being able to retain that kind of information was nothing for me to understand that there was no way that she would be able to have this medication within that time frame. So being able to give him this information, he was now being able to, he was able now armed with information to go back to her and ask her, these questions. And when asked, she was stone silent, had nothing to say. She didn't know what to, and she knew at that moment that she had been caught. I mean, it was what it was. Um, so, I mean, and this is where it is that the downward spiral happened to have started, and he proceeded to speak about, ill of her and her child and so on, and things that he wanted to do. I needed, like I said, to keep him from. Finally, it was that he had subsided and left her alone. About a month and a half later, he comes over to me and he shows me like a news clip or a reel, or I forget exactly what it was, but somebody drove their car into her house. I forget if she was home or her kid was home, but this person was trying to end her because she gave it to that person. This is not how you treat people, and this is not how it is that you do things. Women happen to be deceitful in the most disgusting of fashions, and it's the fact that women will take up for other women is what it is. Rather than holding them accountable is what makes this so detrimental to society, because you raise your daughters to be the same. And this is why it is even in what is it, in high schools, I believe it's I forget exactly what the number is. It's like 6 out of 10 girls happen to have STDs, and it's like 4 out of 10 boys. And the reason why it is that it's less boys than girls is because the girls are sharing the boys. Ladies, you're doing a bang up job when it comes to society. Like, the lies are not helping anybody. It's not getting any better. This isn't going to fix anything. We really need for things to change, and it's going to need to change before it is things will be able to get any better. But goodness, that's all it is that I happen to have for today. Catch you guys in the next video. I hope you have a good evening, good weekend. Take it easy. See you in the next one. Peace.